virtual band that was initially created by Damon Albarn, the lead singer of Blur, and artist Jamie Hewlett, the co-creator of the comic Tank Girl. While this four-man group has sold several million records and performed live at venues like the 2002 Brit Awards, its accomplishments are all more impressive when you learn that they're not real. The bandmates 2D, Murdoch Nichols, Noodle, and Russell Hobbs are all cartoon characters drawn by Hewlett, while Albarn provides the actual music, producing it either solo or with outside contributing artists. On the rare occasion that the Gorillaz perform live, they use technologies such as large projector screens or holograms, but the four most recognizable faces in the band are all computer generated. I'm sorry I had to make this that obvious, but I'm afraid that some of you out there might actually think that those cartoons are real people, and if that's the case, you need to seek help. Number 7 is Donald Kaufman.
We're gonna need...
In late January 2003, the nominations for the 75th Annual Academy Awards were announced, and included one name that truly stood out, mostly because he was a fictional character. Twin brothers Charlie and Donald Kaufman were up for Best Adapted Screenplay for Adaptation, which was based on Susan Orlean's novel The Orchid Thief. Now this confused a lot of people as Charlie did not have a twin brother. The fictional Donald was created by Kaufman for the film, but in an attempt at being clever, was also credited with writing the movie and even got a special in loving memory of Donald Kaufman at the end of the credits due to his character dying in one of the final scenes. Man, this guy's twisted, damn. Donald might just be the only fictional character to ever actually receive an Oscar nomination. Okay, that's hilarious. A fictional guy actually got an Oscar nomination. I guess it just shows how smart these judges really are. Number 6 is Betty Crocker. Wait, what? Then whose delicious muffin mix have I been buying? Long before her name or image was appearing on boxes of cake mix or cookie dough, Betty Crocker was a kitchen advice giver in 1921, responding to letters and baking questions mailed in from people all over the United States in a newspaper called the Saturday Evening Post. Readers were content knowing that their cooking and product inquiries were being handled by Betty, a mature woman who spent most of her time in the kitchen. Oh, she's a lovely old woman, except she never existed. That's right, Betty Crocker was never an actual person. She was created by advertising director Sam Gale, who felt that women wouldn't be willing to hear cooking advice from a man, so he wrote his column under the pseudonym. The character wound up taking on a life of its own, even gaining her own radio show and appearing on multiple products. Every bite into those delicious cupcakes were a lie. Number 5 is Aunt Jemima.
What? We're not gonna...
More delicious syrupy lies! A staple on breakfast tables all over North America, Aunt Jemima syrup and pancake mixes are a very popular line of products. Although trademarked by Quaker Oats Company out of Chicago, Illinois in 1937, Aunt Jemima has been a household name all the way back to 1889. Most people in the United States, even today, can picture what she looks like in their own head, which is odd considering she's not a real person. Disturbingly, the first version of Jemima was inspired by a person in blackface, an apron, and kerchief. Former slave Nancy Green was the first woman to portray the brand icon, something she continued to do for nearly 33 years until her death in 1923. Since then, multiple women have taken on the role, none of them being the real Aunt Jemima that prepared your syrup for you. Disturbing beginnings of delicious pancakes. Number 4 is Pope Joan.
Gonna Google.
According to a famous legend, during the Middle Ages, a brilliantly smart and talented actress named Joan decided to disguise herself as a man and managed to move up the ranks in the church hierarchy until she was eventually elected pope. She remained the head of the church until one day, while in a procession, Pope Joan suddenly gave birth right there on her horse. Can we slow this thing down a little bit? It's galloping too late. Some versions of the story say that she died immediately after, while others say that she was murdered by a mob of people over her deception. Well, it's most likely that neither version is accurate, as the evidence of her ever actually existing is in and of itself non-existent, outside of the tale itself. Believers often point out that the church destroyed all records of the incident, but regardless, today Joan is lauded, fictional or not, as an inspiration. Hey man, if it makes people happy and gives them hope, why not? It's kind of like Superman, just gets people all warm and fuzzy. Number 3 is Carolyn Keene. For any fans of the Nancy Drew books, this one might change the way you look back on those stories. Released between 1930 and 1985, these mystery novels were very popular with young girls. Each book has a single name credited as the author right on the cover and in a few places inside. That name is Carolyn Keene, and many of you may recognize it. Yeah, but the thing is, she didn't write any of the Nancy Drew books. But Matt, how can that be? Well, if you weren't paying attention to the title of this video, it's because she doesn't exist. The moniker was a pseudonym used by several writers, all hired by Edward Stratemeyer, the book's producer. Each ghostwriter was paid $125 to complete the book and then sign away all credit, so the stories seemed like they all came from the same place. It wasn't until fans started asking questions about Keene in the late 70s that the truth started coming out. That's like 45 years of deception. She could be the next James Bond. Damn. Number 2 is Tony Clifton. Tony Clifton, look out, a real artist is coming through. Created by actor and comedian Andy Kaufman in the late 1970s, Tony Clifton is a lounge singer and anti-comedy performer. Before his death to lung cancer on May 16, 1984, Kaufman frequently performed as Clifton, doing rude comedy specials at lounges where he'd verbally berate customers and act like a womanizer. That lady got a nice mustache, a little bigger than mine. However, once people caught on that Clifton and Kaufman were one and the same, Andy messed with their heads by appearing on stage or in the audience while Tony was performing. His brother Michael would sometimes take on the Clifton role, but most often it was Kaufman's close friend Bob Zmuda behind the dark glasses and fake mustache. Clifton is often credited as himself even in films, leaving many to question to this day if there really is a Tony Clifton, and Andy got the last laugh on everyone. I don't know, but it's a fun character to play. And number 1 is Robin Hood. I'm going to steal from the rich and give to nobody because I don't exist. For any of you that have ever read the books or watched the movies, this may come as a real shock to you. Robin Hood has been cemented in modern storytelling, appearing in movies, television programs, and of course books. So much so that seeing him loosing arrows on the big screen leads people to wonder if they're watching something based on true events. And if you believed it, well, I don't blame you. Stories of the Archer date back all the way to 1370 AD, if not earlier. Plus, many of the tales involve real places, like Nottingham Castle and Sherwood Forest, adding to the evidence that people used to prove that he was a real man in green who robbed rich nobles and crooked lords and gave what he stole to the poor, lower-class townfolk. Still, most historians agree that Robin of Locksley was not a real person. There you go, childhood ruined. You're welcome. So that was 10 famous people who never actually existed. And if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications by clicking the little bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a video, because I release new ones all the time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm going to go rob the rich and give to the poor. But not really, because I don't exist. Bye! It's the thirstiest time. Fact, you can't be held responsible for spreading false information if you say you heard it from someone else. There are a lot of common understandings that are passed on through the years from generation to generation, and with how connected this generation is, it's easier than ever to pass around that information. But what if I told you that some of the most believed and understood facts are actually false? Here are 10 completely false facts that everyone still believes. Number 10 is never wake a sleepwalker. It's a very common belief that you should never wake someone when they're sleepwalking because they could die of fright, or they might end up losing it on you. Hey, Timmy? The idea is that during sleepwalking, a person is in such a deep sleep that waking them suddenly can send them into shock and their heart could stop. But the truth is, there's no evidence for this. It's actually more dangerous when you're doing the walking. The worst that could really happen is that a sleepwalker is just going to be confused when they wake up. In some rare cases, they are so dazed that they could panic and lash out. Sleep researchers say that if you find someone sleepwalking, gently guide them back to their bed. But if they look like they're going to hurt themselves by stumbling around at night, then it's time to wake them, but be wary of a punch coming your way. Realistically, it's not going to happen unless the individual you're waking is Conor McGregor, in which case I say just let him sleep. Number 9 was the forbidden fruit was an apple. In the Bible, the famous story of Adam and Eve states that they were the first two people who ever lived. Their home, of course, was the Garden of Eden, and at its center was the Tree of Knowledge. And in the pond around that tree was the knowledge whale. The story goes that Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the tree, which gave them knowledge of good and evil. Now, whenever someone tells this story or draws a picture of it, the fruit is usually an apple. But the truth is, there's no mention of what the fruit actually is in the Bible itself. Most researchers believe that the error comes from different translations. The Latin words for evil and apple are actually very similar, hence the confusion. Well, I guess no one will ever really know what the fruit was. All we do know is that it was delicious and succulent and... Anyone else hungry? Number 8 is we have 5 senses. It's often stated that human beings only have 5 senses: taste, smell, touch, vision, and hearing. But as you guessed, this is wrong. In reality, we have way more than 5 senses. In fact, we may have as many as 12. These include all kinds of things like a sense of temperature, the sense of time passing, sense of balance, sense of thirst, and many more. The myth of 5 senses can be traced all the way back to ancient Greece. In fact, the philosopher Aristotle claimed that we have 5 senses 2,300 years ago. In more recent times, this myth has been further spread by people referring to alleged psychic powers as the 6th sense. Realistically, if there was such a thing as psychic power, it would be called something like the 21st sense. But then again, that's a terrible name for a movie, and Bruce Willis would not approve. Number 7 is slaves built the pyramids. And this idea is still spread around to this day. But in truth, the people who worked on the pyramids were not slaves at all. They were actually free individuals, everything from craftsmen to professional builders, and were highly regarded for doing an important job, constructing the tombs of the pharaohs. A lot of people assume slaves were involved in the building of the pyramids because it was such a monumental task. It made sense that in a time where slavery was common, the cheapest labor had to be used. We now know that the builders of the pyramids were not slaves at all, and in fact that they were so well regarded that they were buried in their own tombs near the pyramids of the pharaohs themselves. Now that's prime real estate. Number 6 is water makes your fingers wrinkle. It makes other things wrinkle too. Toes I'm referring to. What'd you think? Most people swear that water makes their fingertips prune up. After all, this commonly happens after taking a shower or a bath. It's commonly believed that the water soaks into the skin, causing it to wrinkle. When the skin dries, it becomes smooth again. But the truth is, and this is gonna blow your mind, skin is actually waterproof. It's not the water getting into the skin that causes it to wrinkle. Instead, when a person is immersed in water, it's the brain that reacts to it. It increases heart rate and perspiration, which then causes blood vessels in the fingertips to contract. And then presto, you have wrinkly little pruny fingers. It's believed that this happens to give us a better grip in wet conditions, which is pretty handy if you fall in the pool, which I've never done, of course. I've done it once or twice. Number 5 are humans evolved from chimpanzees. It's often claimed that human beings evolved directly from chimpanzees, but this is technically incorrect. They may be our closest relatives in the animal kingdom, but chimpanzees didn't evolve into us. If you trace our collective family tree back far enough, you'll find that we share a common ancestor with the chimpanzee. It was an ape-like creature that came way before both species. At some point, millions of years ago, this species evolved into two separate animals. One went on to become us, and the other split off to become other apes that we see in the world today, including the chimpanzee. So instead of evolving from a chimpanzee, we're kind of like evolutionary siblings. In other words, we evolved alongside each other. That explains why I like bananas so much. I'm kind of hungry now, excuse me. Number 4, our goldfish have a 3-second memory. I have a terrible memory. Goldfish forget things after just a few seconds, or at least that's what people think. But it's not actually true. In fact, goldfish have pretty good memories. Definitely better than me. I can't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. They can remember things for at least several weeks and can even be trained to remember events months after the fact. In 2008, researchers did a little experiment to see just how good a goldfish's memory is. They would play a specific sound every time they fed a group of goldfish, kind of like a dinner bell. Eventually, the fish were released into a fish farm, and 5 months later, the researchers played the sound again, and the same fish followed it, remembering that it meant that they were going to be fed. This research proves 2 things. 1, that goldfish have complex memories, and 2, that you should never tell your secrets around a goldfish, because it's going to tell somebody. Loose lips sink ships. Number 3 is the Great Wall and space.
Yes. Just restart.
You've probably heard the claim that the Great Wall of China is the only man-made object that can be seen from space. But it's not true. Other man-made structures are also very visible. In fact, it's often almost impossible to see the Great Wall from space with the naked eye. It's only visible in perfect viewing conditions from a really low orbit of about 100 kilometers above sea level. Most astronauts spend their time in a much higher orbit at the International Space Station, between 330 kilometers and 435 kilometers way up there, and from there, the Great Wall can't be seen. But believe it or not, many other man-made structures can. They include the 200-kilometer square Great Almeria Greenhouse in Spain and the Great Bingham Canyon Mine near Salt Lake City. And if the sunlight hits my head, ding, at just the right moment, you can see it from space as well. Number 2, our bats can't see. It's widely believed wisdom that bats can't see. They fly around in the dark, live in caves, and suck people's blood. Oh wait, no, that's vampires. But still, many believe that bats can't see a thing. But the truth is, most bats can see just fine. In fact, many of the 1,300 species of bats have great eyesight and can use it for hunting. The common misconception that bats can't see is because people know that many bat species use echolocation when flying. This means that they produce sounds, and then, depending on how those sounds echo off of nearby objects, they can navigate around them. It's like nature's very own radar. But despite this amazing talent, species like the brown long-eared bat combine their radar skills as well as their eyesight to hunt down flying insects. It also means that they can see crucifixes, which means... Oh wait, no, that's vampires again. Sorry, get confused. And number 1 is the Earth revolves around the sun. Okay, many of you are going to be like, what? How's that? No, just hear me out. Most people believe that Earth revolves around the sun. But as crazy as this sounds, that is technically wrong. What the Earth actually does is revolve around the center of our solar system's mass. That means that everything that's in our solar system, the planets, moons, comets, asteroids, and the sun itself, has its own center of gravity. And that's what we orbit around. Now, the reason that people believe that we orbit around the sun is because it kind of looks like that. This is because the sun accounts for 99.87% of our solar system's mass. That means that the center of our solar system is usually very close to the sun itself, but it can be as much as a few 100,000 kilometers away from it. It's kind of like a cosmic optical illusion. Now whenever someone mentions that the Earth orbits the sun, you can laugh smugly and enjoy correcting them. Or don't, it might not make you very popular. that actually the Earth doesn't revolve around the sun, that's a technicality. See, there's some math and things like that. Okay, you've walked away. Okay. So that was 10 completely false facts that everyone believes. Except not anymore, because I've explained it to you. But if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications by clicking the little bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a thing, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you when the Earth revolves around the sun next time. Just kidding. Bye-bye. Okay, time to do this thing. America is one of the freest nations on the planet, home to those that want to achieve anything and pursue their dreams. Unless your dream is to buy something on this list, in which case, really though, there are many things banned from America, but some of those things might surprise you, and some of them might just straight up make you shake your head. No matter how much money you have, you can't buy these things in the good old US of A. So let's find out exactly what those things are. Here are 10 things that are banned in America. Number 1 is Kinder Surprise eggs. Okay, this one's going to be confusing to my American friends because you've likely never seen or heard of these, so allow me to explain. Kinder eggs are hollow milk chocolate eggs that contain a toy inside of it when cracked open. They're fun and tasty, and they're popular here in Canada as well as Mexico. The reason that you've never been able to experience these tasty things is because back in 1938, the Food and Drug Administration banned the sale of food items with toys or trinkets embedded inside of them. The ban was made primarily to prevent choking hazards, which makes sense, but as a lot of people have argued, this ban is kind of dumb because, well, if you've ever eaten one of these, you know just how hard it is to choke on the massive capsule inside. Realistically, it's way too big to be swallowed accidentally by anyone, even a child. Plus, there's plenty of warnings on the packaging advising parents not to let any children under 3 play with it. A little bit of common sense, folks. I mean, come on, nobody's that hungry that they're going to inhale an entire chocolate egg. Was there a toy in that? Number 2 is haggis. I know! How dare they ban pudding made from the heart, liver, and lungs of a sheep mixed with onions and oatmeal inside of an animal's stomach. Oh, I get it. Haggis is a famous dish that originated in Scotland, and people either love it or hate it. Apparently, this Scottish delicacy is pretty good. Not that I would ever try it, but regardless, it was banned from being imported to the United States of America back in 1971 because the FDA forbids anything that has another animal's lungs in it due to the fear of transmitted diseases amongst different species. However, anyone is free to make haggis within the United States, but if you want that authentic taste of animal innards, you gotta go to the source. Otherwise, the government is fearful that you could be eating a sheep's cough. See, it's scary. Number 3 is dog and cat fur products. Oh, but Buddy looks so soft. Why can't I make him into a scarf? Said no one ever. Any item made from dog or cat fur is banned in the United States and has been since the year 2000. Not only is it illegal to import or export dog and cat fur products, but it's illegal to even produce them. This ban was created under animal abuse laws, and believe it or not, the authorities will actually pay you a minimum of $500 to squeal on someone who is violating this law. Nice gloves, Mark. Is that made from mittens? The only exception to this is taxidermy, so if you really want to stuff Charlie or Oscar and pretend like they're still alive, you're free to do so. Although that's really creepy. Pretty bird, pretty bird. Number 4 is ephedra. Ephedra is made from the plant Ephedra sinica and has been used in traditional Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. More recently, it made its way to North America in the form of dietary supplements like weight loss pills. However, although popular, it was banned from America back in 2004. After studying over 16,000 reports of heart attacks, strokes, liver failures, and over 150 deaths, it was believed that ephedra was the culprit. Interestingly, despite the ban, people still actively tried to bring it into the country, and many people swear by it, using ephedra to lose weight in a hurry. Honestly, I recommend that you just hit the gym harder. It's not that great if you're a 50-50 chance of either being drop dead gorgeous or just dropping dead. Number 5 is sassafras oil. Man, this one's just fun to say. If you were to go to a country outside of the United States and order a root beer, you might just find that it actually contains sassafras oil. In fact, it's also found in soap and cleaning products in many countries around the world, but it was actually banned in the United States back in 1960 due to it being linked to liver damage, vomiting, and possibly possibly even cancer. On top of that, it's also an ingredient used in the making of MDMA, aka ecstasy. So it's banned from being imported because of all of that. Man, it's a good thing it's not readily available pretty much everywhere. Oh wait, yeah, the twist here is that the sassafras plant actually grows all over the United States. It's very common along the East Coast from New York to Florida and various other states, but hey, the government probably doesn't want you knowing that, you know. But hey, I'm Canadian, and that's none of my business. Number 6 are antiques. Oh man, Mildred's gonna be ticked. Okay, antiques themselves within America are perfectly fine, but importing them can actually get you in a lot of trouble depending on what they are. Anything that's considered culturally significant is banned from being imported to the United States, such as archaeological objects and sculptures. So in other words, if you're traveling and you buy a souvenir, be real careful about what it is if you're bringing it home. Believe it or not, some things actually need a special export permit issued by the country of origin. Number 7 is absinthe. You may have heard of absinthe, that psychoactive alcohol that supposedly makes you hallucinate and see a green fairy. It's a popular drink in Europe and other parts of the world and has a very high alcohol content, sometimes up to 74%. But the fact that this stuff can knock you out with pretty much one shot is not actually the reason that it's banned in the United States. It's banned because of one specific ingredient, wormwood. Wormwood contains a chemical compound called thujone, which some claim causes hallucinations and even muscle spasms and seizures. So while you can still buy absinthe in America, it's sans wormwood, which basically just makes it a boring green alcohol. Number 8 is fresh ackee fruit, aka the fruit nightmare. Seriously though, I don't like any fruit that looks like it's looking back at me. Freshly picked ackee fruit imported from West Africa is actually a staple in Jamaican cuisine. However, it's banned from the United States. Interestingly, you can still find some canned versions in some specialty stores. However, fresh ackee fruit can actually be dangerous. The seeds of the fruit can cause Jamaican vomiting sickness, which is pretty self-explanatory, and could also lead to seizures, a coma, or worse, it could actually be fatal. So I suggest you just don't go picking these black eyeball fruits and eating them, because they're terrifying as is. Number 9 is Mirabelle plums. Well, this is just a straight up confusing one. Another fruit that's banned from the US is the Mirabelle plum, and, well, there really isn't much reason as to why. Mirabelle plums look smaller, lighter colored versions of plums found in America, but if you want to know what they really taste like, you may have to shell out enough for a plane ticket to Lorraine, France, where they're grown. These plums are federally banned, but it's not actually clear why that is. Apparently, the US has some bizarre importing law that bans this particular fruit, and although the law is upheld, there isn't a solid reason as to why. And number 10 is Cassou Marzu. Yep, ban this one. Ban away. Okay, cheese is a staple in many US homes. It's sold in stores and all over the country. However, there is one cheese that you probably wouldn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole anyway. Luckily, it's banned in the US, so you won't have to worry about it anyway. Cassou Marzu, a cheese from Sardinia, Italy, is not only made with unpasteurized milk, which in and of itself is already banned from the US, but it's filled with, get ready for this one, fly larvae. Yep, it's maggoty goodness. This disgusting cheese is meant to be eaten with the larvae still in it, so it's probably fine to a lot of people that it's banned. Nope cheese. And that was 10 things that are banned in America. Just a reminder that my limited edition fact t-shirt is only available for 2 more days. So make sure that you press or click on the screen on the t-shirt below to pick one up before they're gone forever. 2 of my most recent videos are on the right that you can check out right now, including a really cool video that I did with McDonald's, so make sure you press or click on your screen for that. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you guys so much. Love your face. Bye!
Hey! Guys!
Matthew, we
I need to
gotta
tell you something.
Many of the foods that you eat regularly have lots of different varieties, but eat the wrong one and it could kill you.
I'm biting my lip.
Even if you've eaten mushrooms, fish, or even cheese, you've probably noticed that there are many different varieties of each. But what you probably didn't know is that depending on where you are, some places sell those foods that are actually highly toxic to certain people. So you might want to pay attention to what's on this list. Here are 10 foods that can kill you instantly. Number 1 are death cap mushrooms. There's an estimated 10,000 different types of mushrooms in North America alone. So, unless you're an expert, you may want to rethink your chances of properly telling apart the edible ones from the poisonous ones out in the wild. Amanita phalloids, or death caps, are, as the name implies, some of the most poisonous mushrooms you can find. While native to Europe, due to importing wood and certain nuts, these deadly fungi have found their way to
No! Knock your belly. Don't do that. Knock your belly butt.
grow in North America, Australia, Western Asia, and even some South American countries. Although they're actually rumored to taste quite pleasant, they'll also cause severe gastronomical upset and organ failure. Poisoning most commonly happens because people who find them think that they're normal or even hallucinogenic mushrooms, which was actually the fate of famous composer Johann Schobert, his wife, his child, 4 guests, and his maid after insisting that his mushrooms were indeed edible. Yeah, they weren't. He did. Number 2 is hackerel. Hackerel is a type of shark that has been a staple food in Icelandic family homes for centuries. When faced with limited food resources, the Icelandic people turned to the abundant supply of hackerel in their waters. There was only one problem, of course. Hackerel is incredibly poisonous to humans. But thanks to some preparation methods handed down by the Vikings, this nasty toxic fish can be made edible. All you have to do is gut it, chop off its head, toss it in a shallow hole in the ground, cover it with rocks and sand, and leave it there for 6 to 12 weeks while it ferments in its own seeped out urine. Ah, delicious. Then after hand drying it for several months, you've got a meal. But if you skip those steps or if it's prepared incorrectly, you could easily get poisoned. Not only is it poisonous if untreated, but hackerel has the honor of being considered one of the most revolting foods on the planet. Bon appetit. Number 3 is fugu. 1 fish, 2 fish, blow fish, a dead person. An estimated 30 to 50 people every year fall victim to one of the most deadly foods in the world, and basically every one of them is doing so with full knowledge of the danger that they face. Fugu, better known as the pufferfish or blowfish, is considered a delicacy in Japan. The problem is though, a single fish contains enough poison to kill 30 adults with no known antidote. The toxins these things contain are 1,200 times stronger than cyanide. It paralyzes those who are brave or foolish enough to consume it while they stay fully conscious and die from asphyxiation. Chefs have to undergo at least 3 years of specialized training to be qualified to prepare the fish properly, which involves removing the creature's most toxic organ, the liver. Serving fugu liver was banned in Japan back in 1984, but that hasn't stopped some daredevil diners demanding to try it, succeeding in being served it, and then possibly paying the ultimate price. Number 4 is belladonna. Belladonna means beautiful woman in Italian, but sadly, it's also the name of one of the most poisonous plants on the planet. Known as or deadly nightshade, belladonna is found in Europe, North Africa, and West Asia. Both the leaves and the berries are extremely toxic and contain tropine alkaloids, which cause hallucinations and delirium. Fresh berries can be distilled into alcohol, and its toxins are sometimes even used pharmaceutically as a remedy for gastrointestinal disorders and insomnia, so it can't all be bad, right? Well, it only takes around 10 tiny berries from this plant to kill a full-grown adult, and they definitely have. Belladonna is believed to be responsible for the poisoning of Roman emperors Claudius and Augustus, and used by the Scottish King Duncan I in 1030 AD, who, legend has it, gave bottles of the drink to the Danish army, killing them without ever raising his sword. Number 5 is Sanaki. You know how people say don't play with your food? That's wise words, but in this case, you should probably watch out that your food doesn't start trying to play with you. The choking octopi is considered a Korean delicacy. Oh, don't worry, this one won't poison you. No. It will instead kill you in a much faster and far creepier way. The tentacles of the octopi are served raw immediately after being cut from the body of the animal, and like a chicken with its head cut off, residual nerve activity keeps the tentacles twitching. And those bad boys don't want to go down without a fight. The tentacle suckers will attach to your lips, cheeks, tongue, and if you don't chew fast enough and drink enough water, they'll actually latch onto your throat on the way down. This could cause you to very quickly choke to death. Approximately 6 people every single year in South Korea die from this, many of whom are men who believe that consuming it will actually boost their strength and sex drive. That's a fair risk. Number 6 is the ackee fruit. There are very few things better than enjoying some authentic Caribbean cooking, and not dying, of course. If you've ever been to Jamaica, you may have tried their national fruit, ackee. It's actually one half of their national dish, ackee and saltfish, which in September of 2011 actually ranked 2nd in a survey that National Geographic conducted of the best national dishes. Now, this may have you dying to go out and pick some ackee apples for yourself, but hold your horses because you'll literally be dying. Ackee contains hypoglycin, which causes blood sugar to drop to fatal levels. If the unripened or untreated fruit is eaten, you could fall victim to Jamaica vomiting sickness, which involves seizures and lethal hypoglycemia. In 2011, 23 people were confirmed to have died, and another 194 were suspected of having been poisoned after consuming the ackee fruit. Number 7 are giant Namibian bullfrogs. If you've ever wanted to try eating a frog, I recommend you go French style and stick with the legs, because when it comes to Namibia's version of them, any more than that might put you in the hospital or even worse, in your grave. Giant bullfrogs are a delicacy in Namibia and can be upwards of 9 inches long and weigh over a pound. Since they're virtually indistinguishable from many more edible frogs, these amphibians pose a real danger to those who crave frog meat. They're usually only found on the black market, not only because they're endangered, but also because they're highly toxic. The majority of the bullfrog is poisonous to humans, including its skin, tongue, and most organs, and eating one can cause kidney failure. Young adult males who have not yet mated are considered to be the most dangerous. That's right, a bullfrog with blue balls is deadly. Number 8 is casu marzu cheese. When the name for the food you're about to serve literally means rotting cheese, it might be better to serve cheddar cubes and crackers instead. Casu marzu is the Sardinian name for maggot cheese. Yep, you heard that right. Maggot cheese. This Italian sheep's milk specialty is made by removing the rind and leaving it outside so
Good.
that cheese flies will lay their eggs inside of it. As many as
And how do you plan to do that?
What about isolation?
Ladies,
Yeah.
ain't gonna set foot in the saloon.
Get out to just in
Not without
travel.
500 eggs are added to this dairy product at any one time. Once the larvae hatch, they eat, digest, and excrete the cheese from inside. It's the acid from this process that makes the cheese soft and ready to eat. So basically, you're eating maggot poop. The thing is, you have to eat it when the maggots are still alive and squirming, because dead ones are highly toxic and yes, can kill you. What's worse is that if you don't chew them properly, living maggots will turn your innards into their new all-you-can-eat buffet. 2 dangers, 1 cheese, and a whole lot of nope. Number 9 is English yew. Found in southern parts of Europe, Southwest Asia, and Northwest Africa, Taxus baccata, better known as English yew, is a coniferous tree with bright red berries. A popular choice in landscaping designs, they're useful for creating ornamental topiaries and formal hedges. But beyond the wondrous beauty of these evergreen trees lies a murderous plant ready to sap you of your life. Every single part of this evergreen is highly toxic to humans, with the strange exception of its berries. Even with all that we know today, people still risk their lives and eat them. The seeds inside these very edible berries are just as toxic as the rest of the tree, so they must be prepared properly with the seeds inside the berries removed. If you ingest even 1 seed, you could experience increased heart rate, convulsions, muscle tremors, and cardiac arrest before ultimately dying. Even scarier, you could experience no symptoms at all and still be dead within a few hours. Man, those berries were good. Nope. And number 10 is water hemlock. At 8 feet tall and a distinctive collection of white and green umbrella-shaped flowers on it, you'd think that these plants would be easy to avoid touching altogether, let alone accidentally eating. But unfortunately, nature has a way of making deadly things look appetizing. Hemlock is one of the most lethal plants in the world and is considered to be the most poisonous plant in North America. History shows that it was a particular favorite in ancient Greece, most notably being responsible for the death of Socrates.
That's my style.
Introducing the entirely redesigned 2019 Acura RDX.
That's my style.
It's everything we ever imagined, and then some.
Yeah, that's my.
Matthew, I'm coming! Matthew, how do I get down there? I can't make it down there, Matthew. Dude, I need to get down there first. Jump. Matthew, I'm trapped in some kind of place. What is it? I don't know.
What makes water hemlock so dangerous is that the fresh root, the most toxic part of the plant, strongly resembles a parsnip. But unlike parsnips, water hemlock contains cicutoxin, a neurotoxin that overstimulates the central nervous system, causing nausea, breathing problems, kidney failure, seizures, and soon after ingestion, death. See, this is why I stay inside most of the time, man. Everything's gonna kill you. So, those were 10 foods that could kill you instantly. But of course, I want to know from you guys, have you or would you ever try one of these foods? Leave your comments below because I'll be reading through them and I'm going to pin the best one to the top. Thank you guys so much for coming by today. Remember to come back tomorrow and every weekday at exactly 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I'll have another video for you. I'll see you then.
Do we have an instant traffic? If we do, then that's a crate. And then here, look. It's the door.
Oh, I sure do love the zoo. Look at the cute little pandas. I'm gonna get a little closer. Come here, you little. Oh, I bit my face. You know, this world is filled with all kinds of dangerous animals. That I don't need to tell you. However, what I do need to tell you is most of the animals that you think are cute and cuddly and just adorable can actually kill you. Here are 10 adorable animals that can kill you. Part 2. Number 10 are dingoes. That dingo's got my baby was a famous phrase uttered by Lindy Chamberlain in 1982, who claimed that a wild dog stole her 9-week-old baby right out of her tent in the Australian outback. Authorities thought Chamberlain was lying, and she was convicted of killing her child and sentenced to life in prison. That was until part of the baby's jacket was discovered 4 years later in a dingo's lair. Chamberlain's sensational story became A Cry in the Dark, a film starring Oscar winner Meryl Streep in 1988. Despite this gruesome tale, most dingoes do not prey on human babies and are actually shy and timid of most humans. However, all the same, Australian authorities still have to remind people that these are wild animals, not just cute dogs, and urge a lot of caution, especially when around children, and never to feed them. Look at this cute little Australian doggy. I'm gonna pet him. I lost my hand. Number 9 are cows. Murder. Cows are so darn cute, especially little baby calves. However, they'll kill you. The bovine has helped human civilization develop as a beast of burden, provider of milk, and keep us warm in the winter, and looking sharp in our Gucci boots, unless you're a vegan, in which case that's murder. But cows, especially bulls, can be deadly to humans who mess with them, like bullfighters who taunt the poor creatures with red flags and swords, and sometimes end up on the business end of their horns. Ole! Attendees of the running of the bulls that kicks off the San Fermin festival in Pamplona, Spain, have been gored, trampled, and impaled, with 15 recorded deaths since they began keeping records back in 1924. Now, bulls are obvious, but in case you're wondering how cows can kill you, well, if you ever go cow tipping and one falls on you, you deserve it. Number 8 are squirrels. Visit any park in North America and you're likely to encounter a collection of cute bushy-tailed little rodents gathering acorns and performing acrobatic leaps from tree to tree. Now, most squirrels are harmless and have adapted to living amongst and often off of humans and delight us with their antics. Now, that's all well and good. However, there are some instances where squirrels can carry rabies and have been known to attack and bite humans when you least suspect it. Imagine being on a picnic date at the park. Oh, babe, you look so nice. You want some cheese? I have rabies. Typically when this happens, it's one lone wolf squirrel, like the one in Marin County in Northern California, who supposedly attacked 8 people in 3 weeks back in 2015 with bites and scratches. Wildlife experts indicate that humans feeding these wild animals is what causes the brazen and aggressive behavior. So put away those Funyuns. It's making the squirrels crazy. Number 7 is the pufferfish. The pufferfish, sometimes called a blowfish, looks innocent enough when it's deflated. You know, just your average little fishy smiling, swimming around. It's lovely. It swims around eating various invertebrates and algae, that is, until it's threatened and then inflates to 2 to 3 times its normal size with water and air. It's just a regular day shark. But this isn't just for show, as the pufferfish's body is brimming with tetrodotoxin, a foul-tasting and lethal toxin 1,200 times stronger than cyanide. There's enough in each pufferfish to kill 30 adult humans. But that being said, in Japan, brave foodies will pay ridiculous sums of money in order to eat pufferfish, which they call fugu, cut with precision by only the most experienced and highly trained sushi chefs in the world. Oh, but as long as an experienced chef is cutting it, nope, 23 people have been known to die in Japan from poorly cut fugu, which makes this one a delicacy that I'm happy to blow off. Pardon the pun. Number 6 are giant pandas. Panda, 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 panda. Giant pandas are one of China's great symbols, with those kind, docile-looking faces in a big cuddly package. But this carnivore with an overactive sex drive is no teddy bear and can kill you with its bite, one of the highest pounds per square inch bite forces in the animal kingdom. It developed this through evolution to chew through bamboo stalks. So it's just gonna bite through your arm like a twig. Just ask Zhang Xinyan, who drank 4 large beers and decided to have a one-on-one encounter with a giant panda at the Beijing Zoo. He jumped into Gugu, the giant panda's enclosure, just to show off to some friends, and show off he did. As you could imagine, he startled Gugu just a little bit, who attacked Zhang, nearly biting his right leg off. But Zhang was feeling no pain that day and bit Gugu right back before he was rescued from the pen and later hospitalized. That takes a lot of cojones when a giant panda bear bites you and you're like, yeah, take this. Kids, don't bite animals and don't jump into their enclosures at all. How about just stay away from bears in general? Number 5 are polar bears. Oh God, speaking of bears, as it turns out, Coca-Cola has us all fooled that polar bears just want to plop down on an iceberg and watch northern lights while sipping on a refreshing Coke. But yeah, actually, they're the largest land predators along with grizzly bears and prey on fish, seals, walruses, and whales, but have also been known to actively hunt humans. Now, luckily, these solitary creatures are isolated in the most desolate and extremely cold places in the Arctic, but with climate change on the rise and their habitat threatened, they are more likely to encounter more humans. In August of 2011, British teenager Hortio Chappelle was part of the British Schools Exploring Society trip on a Norwegian glacier. That's where he was mauled to death by a polar bear while 4 others were injured. And on top of that, the group had to shoot the bear and were evacuated by helicopter to the hospital for treatment. Maybe he was drinking Coca-Cola and the polar bear was like, I'm gonna have some of that. Number 4 are orangutans. Orangutans with their cute orange hair are the closest DNA match to humans in the animal kingdom. Due to deforestation, the illegal pet trade, and bushmeat hunting, orangutans can only be found on the islands of Borneo and northern Sumatra, where their habitat is contracting to a breaking point. Known affectionately as the old man of the forest, the largest of all the arboreal animals are the gentlest of all the apes, but their hairy arms' wingspan can stretch for up to 2.44 meters and are very strong from swinging from the trees. But in 2012, an orangutan tribe fought back against palm oil plantation workers, knocking a man named Kernati out and biting him in retaliation for beating and shooting them with air guns. So they're cute and gentle until you provoke them, in which case they're like, I ate you! Number 3 are koalas. Can I just ask, are there any animals in Australia that don't want to kill you? Even the koala, the cuddly vegetarian down under, have been known to attack humans when they feel threatened. Now, koalas usually stick to a busy schedule of sleeping 22 hours a day in trees, occasionally only interrupting that sleep for snacking on eucalyptus leaves. The eucalyptus leaves, of course, also having a slightly narcotic effect, making koalas stoned and even more docile. But South Australian woman Mary Ann Forster learned the hard way that even the snuggliest marsupial can become a vicious demon in November of 2014. That's when a koala sunk its razor-sharp front incisors right into Miss Forrester's leg when she tried to protect her dogs. The Australian woman had to pry the koala's teeth open to release her leg and hobble 2 kilometers home before finally rushing to the hospital where she required 12 stitches. Okay, I have seen people coddle these things, and I am never doing that. That's why I like sloths so much. They're too slow to actually hurt you. Sloths can bite you too. They have razor-sharp teeth also. Mess you up? Okay. Well, nothing's safe. Number 2 is the slow loris. The slow loris's anime-sized eyes command you to hug it, but don't, because they secrete a venom from the underside of their arms. Oh yeah, you want to go? Check that out. These arboreal primates all hail from Southeast Asia and come in 4 different versions, all from the Nacitibus genus. The slow loris's brachial glands produce an allergen that's similar to the fel D1 that causes severe reactions in people with cat allergies. And the disturbing thing is how it's transmitted, which is via their needle-like dental combs, which can cause anaphylactic shock. Now, they're called slow not as an insult, but because they sleep all day hidden in trees and move deliberately at night, only a step or 2 ahead of predators like pythons, eagles, and orangutans. Slow lorises are one of the most coveted animals in the illegal pet trade because they're so cuddly looking. But trust me, they're best enjoyed at zoos or from the safety of your computer screen. Kind of like right now. And number 1 is the blue-ringed octopus. Oh boy, this one. The blue-ringed octopus is one of the deadliest animals in the sea, with a venom so poisonous one could kill 10 large men. These cephalopods are barely the size of a pencil from tentacle to beak, with bright blue rings on their body that flash as a warning to would-be predators to back off. Predators, prey, and clueless humans can receive a painless nip that injects tetrodotoxin, the same venom found in pufferfish, which blocks the channels that allow sodium ions into your nerves. That's all scientific jargon for you gon' die. Within 10 minutes, your lips and face go numb, your stomach turns, and then your lungs cease working, so without a ventilator, you better hope that you have your affairs in order. And the craziest thing is that there's no antidote, so survivors have to ride it out and wait about 15 hours until their muscles work again, at which point they will exclaim, "Maybe I shouldn't harass this octopi." So that was 10 adorable animals that can kill you, part 2. And if you enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications by clicking the little bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a video, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out part 1 as well. It's pretty fun. And I will see you next time. Bye! Welcome everyone to a brand new top 10. My name is Matthew Santoro, and today's video is all about how appearances can be deceiving. For example, no, I'm not Jason Statham, Howie Mandel, or Mr. Clean. Shocking. I know. But seriously, appearances can be especially deceiving when it comes to lovable animals that you just want to hug. In fact, many of the animals that you may have thought were cute little critters your whole life may have actually been capable of murdering you this whole time and you didn't even know it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you which of the cutest animals actually have the capability of being the deadliest, so that maybe next time you'll think twice before getting close to one. So here they are. 10 adorable animals that can kill you. Number 1 is the beaver. Oh, but man, it's just a beaver with the cute little buck teeth and floppy tail. Yeah, and they'll get you. In May of 2013, a 60-year-old man was trying to take a picture of himself with a beaver while on vacation in Belarus. According to the official report, without warning, the animal suddenly attacked, biting into the man's leg. Now, normally, that kind of ouchie would just end up being a fun story to tell over cocktails to your friends, but unfortunately, what the man didn't realize is that beavers have incredibly strong teeth, capable of biting through wood, so upon impact, the animal's teeth severed a major artery. And sadly, despite first aid from his friends, the bleeding could not be stopped, and the man died in hospital soon after arriving. So to all of you non-Canadians out there making fun of our national animal because it's just a cute little furry thing, you can't do any damage, remember that this thing will lunge at your face like Oprah in front of a Black Forest cake. Number 2 is the leopard seal. Whether they're waving at a crowd, playing volleyball, or performing a multi-horn tune, seals are known for being gosh darn cute when they're in captivity. In the wild, seals are actually considered to be at the top of the Antarctic food chain, and they're incredibly aggressive, yes, even to people. This was the case of 28-year-old scientist Christy Brown. On July 22nd, Brown was snorkeling in Antarctica, yes, that's as cold as it sounds, when she was approached by a cute little leopard seal. Now, what would normally be a cute opportunity to take a selfie turned bad when the animal latched onto the woman's leg and dragged her into the icy depths for several minutes. And in case you didn't know, seals have incredibly jagged teeth, a fact that she obviously didn't. And despite being an experienced diver, the ferocity of the seal and the time spent under the water were too much for her and she drowned. See? Never trust anything hairless with big teeth. They'll bite without warning. Number 3 is the monkey. Okay, so it's known that apes such as chimpanzees and gorillas can be dangerous animals. I mean, remember that time the lady had her face eaten off by a chimp? Yikes. Well, what is not as well known is that their cousins, the often adorable and playful monkey, can tend to also go a little cocoa nut. Well, such was the case with 48-year-old Lilith Jankoum, who was not so nice to his pet monkey when he beated it all the time whenever it hesitated at all to do his orders such as climb trees. That is until one day when the monkey named Brother Quan grew tired of being beaten and decided to take revenge. See, some monkeys have incredible aim, and Brother Quan was no exception when he hurled a coconut from over 50 feet away that connected squarely with his owner's head, cracking his skull and killing the man instantly. He put the lime in the coconut, and then he pitched a perfect strike and killed the dude. Number 4 is the swan. A beautiful symbol of majesty and admiration, the swan is exactly what every ugly duckling wants to become, except that these elegant creatures can hide a dark side. On the morning of April 15th, 2012, 37-year-old Anthony Hensley was kayaking on a pond in Chicago when all of a sudden he was viciously attacked by a swan. In water, swans are much faster and stronger than you might realize, which was demonstrated in this event when the bird swam right into the kayak, capsizing it. And if that wasn't enough, the murderous swan then held Hensley under the water, bashing him repeatedly with its wings and holding him down with his tiny legs. How it managed this is still a mystery to this day, but it happened. Talk about a swan song, am I right? R.I.P. Number 5 is the hippo. Despite the label that they're given for being lazy, large, and kind of cute, hippos are actually extremely unpredictable and can move suddenly at a speed of over 20 miles an hour. In fact, hippos account for over 2,900 deaths per year in Africa, a number that dwarfs lions, sharks, and bears combined. Oh my! One terrifying example of a hippo's aggressive behavior occurred in December of 2014. Limpopo native Dashi Makuval was fishing when a hippopotamus attacked him out of the blue, almost chomping his body clean in half. Dashi eventually managed to fight the animal off, punching it repeatedly in the eyes until it stopped its attack, but unfortunately he died soon after due to his injuries from the creature. Man, well, I guess it's safe to assume that hippo was hungry. I'll let myself out. Number 6 is the poison dart frog. If you ever see a cute little vibrant, colorful frog in the wild, especially in a warm climate, even though it's pretty, don't get close to it. Incredibly tiny in size, only about 2 inches long, the poison dart frog is widely considered to be one of the most poisonous animals on the planet. Their poison secretes from under their skin and contains enough of it to kill 10 men with a single hit. And what might be even scarier is that there is no antivenom for the poison dart frog's poison. So if you get hit, that's it. Now, luckily, most of them exist in places where humans don't really go, like the deep rainforest, but some of them do exist outside of those places, which is why they account for around 3 deaths every year, each one needing no more poison than you'd find on the head of a pin. Oh yeah, that's right, Kermit's a badass. Number 7 is the goat. Mountain goats have been known for ramming people and impaling them, but that's in the wild. Domestically, there are very few cases involving goats actually taking lives. However, a cute little white goat named Snowball decided to change all of that. Snowball's